Welcome to Everyday Dharma Talks, where silence becomes insight. I remember a time not too long ago, when my life was filled with noise. Not just the sounds of the city or the chatter of friends, but an internal noise, a constant, humming restlessness that I mistook for purpose. I scheduled every hour of my day, from early morning meetings to late night dinners. My calendar was a fortress against silence, and my phone was a shield against stillness. I believed that a full life was a busy life, and an empty moment was a moment wasted. One winter I had to travel for work to a small, quiet town by the sea. The project was unexpectedly delayed, leaving me with 3 unscheduled days in a rented house. That was far too large for one person. The house was beautiful with large windows that looked out onto a gray churning ocean. But inside it was silent. The silence was so profound it felt like a presence in itself. On the first day I fought it. I called everyone I knew, scrolling through my contacts desperate for a voice to fill the void. I streamed movies, played music, and even tried to find work to do. But the silence seemed to swallow every sound whole. An unfamiliar feeling began to creep in, a deep, gnawing loneliness that felt like a cold hand gripping my heart. I was surrounded by empty rooms, and I realized with a jolt that my life back home was just like this house. A series of rooms I was constantly trying to fill with people, activities, and distractions. The second day was harder. The loneliness was no longer a failing. It was the entire atmosphere. I walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing on the wooden floors. I sat in a chair by the window and simply watched the waves crash and retreat. There was nowhere to run, no one to call. I was utterly alone with myself. And the person I met in that silence was a stranger. He was anxious, afraid of the quiet, and desperate for validation from the outside world. The noise I had cultivated wasn't a sign of. It was a barrier to keep me from meeting this person, from meeting myself. It was in that immense, uncomfortable emptiness that something shifted. As I sat there just breathing, just being, I started to notice things. The way the light changed as the sun moved behind the clouds. The intricate patterns of foam on the shoreline. The feeling of the cool air on my skin. These were small things, simple things. But in the silence they felt profound. The empty room wasn't a void to be feared. It was an open space. A space where I could finally see and feel what was truly there without the clutter of constant doing. The loneliness didn't vanish, but it transformed. It was no longer a sign of lack, but a quiet invitation. An invitation to be present. To listen not to the noise of the world, but to the subtle rhythm of my own being. I wasn't running from an empty room anymore. I was learning to simply sit in it, and to find that in its stillness. It wasn't empty at all. It was full of life, full of a quiet understanding that had been drowned out for years. The lesson from that house, from those empty rooms, was this: we often run from loneliness because we mistake it for a sign that we are lacking something. But true loneliness comes from the constant running. The stillness we fear holds the very connection we seek. The empty room is not a punishment. It is a space for us to finally come home to ourselves. We spend so much of our lives chasing a feeling we believe is happiness. We chase it in achievements, in relationships, in possessions, in experiences. This kind of satisfaction is like a firework, dazzling explosion that lights up the sky for a moment. It's loud, it's exciting, and it draws all of our attention. We love the thrill of it. The bright burst of color against the darkness. We spend our energy constantly trying to light another one, and then another. But the firework always fades. It leaves behind a trail of smoke and a lingering darkness that feels even deeper than before. And in that darkness, the old restlessness returns, urging us to find the next firework, the next momentary thrill. This cycle is exhausting. It keeps us in a state of constant seeking. A state of believing that true satisfaction is always just around the corner, with the next purchase, the next promotion, the next like. True and sustainable satisfaction, however, is not a firework. It is the sun. The sun doesn't burst into the sky. It rises quietly and steadily every single day. Its light isn't a momentary explosion. It is a constant life-giving warmth. It doesn't demand our attention with a loud bang, but its presence nourishes everything it touches. It is dependable, peaceful, and profoundly powerful in its gentleness. We don't have to chase the sun. We simply have to turn towards it. We have to be willing to step out from the shadows and feel its warmth. This is the nature of true contentment. It isn't found in the next big thing. It is found in the quiet, steady presence of this very moment. It is the gentle warmth of understanding that arises when we stop running, when we stop trying to fill the empty room. It is the peace that comes from accepting the stillness, from allowing ourselves to just be. This satisfaction doesn't fade. It is sustainable because it doesn't depend on anything external. It is the light that is already within us, waiting patiently for us to stop chasing the fireworks and notice its steady glow. So I invite you, very gently, to consider the empty rooms in your own life. Perhaps it is the quiet of an early morning, the moments between tasks, or the feeling that arises when you are alone. What is your first instinct when you feel that space opening up? Is it to reach for your phone? To turn on the television? To fill the silence with noise and activity? There is no judgment in this question. We all do it. It is a deeply ingrained habit, born from the misunderstanding that this emptiness is something to be feared, something to be fixed, is not to force yourself into long periods of silent contemplation, but to start with a small, gentle shift in perspective. The next time you feel that pull of loneliness or the discomfort of an empty moment, I invite you to pause, just for a breath or two. Instead of immediately running to fill the space, just notice it. Acknowledge the feelings. You can say to yourself, silently, here is that feeling of emptiness. Here is the quiet. Don't try to analyze it or push it away. Simply let it be there, like a cloud passing in the sky. See if you can become curious about it. What does it actually feel like in your body? Is it a hollowness in the chest? A tension in the shoulders? Your only task is to not run. Just for a moment, think of it as an experiment. You are not trying to solve the loneliness. You are simply getting to know it. You are treating the empty room not as a prison, but as a place of quiet observation. By doing this, you gently break the cycle of automatic escape. You begin to teach yourself, through direct experience, that you can survive the silence. You begin to discover that the silence has something to offer you, a quiet space to breathe, to feel, and to simply be. This practice of being present in the empty spaces doesn't require a retreat to a remote house by the sea. The most profound meaning is often found in the smallest, most overlooked moments of our daily lives. This is where we find the steady warmth of the sun. Think about the first sip of coffee or tea in the morning. Before you dive into the news or your emails, can you take just one moment to be fully with that experience? Notice the warmth of the mug in your hands, the aroma, the complex taste as it first touches your tongue. That moment is an empty room, a space free from the clutter of yesterday and tomorrow. It is a small island of peace. Or consider the act of washing your hands. It is something we do multiple times a day, usually on autopilot. But for just those 20 seconds, can you feel the sensation of the water, its temperature and pressure against your skin? Can you notice the feeling of the soap, the sound the water makes? This mundane task can become a moment of pure presence, a simple return to yourself. Look out your window. You don't need a dramatic ocean view. Just notice one thing: a single leaf trembling in the breeze, the way the light falls on the building across the street, the color of the sky in this exact moment. For a few seconds, let that be your entire world. You are not trying to find some grand poetic meaning in it. You are simply allowing it to be, and allowing yourself to be there with it. These small daily examples are the heart of the practice. They teach us that we don't need to escape our lives to find peace. Peace is already here, woven into the fabric of our ordinary moments. The empty room is not somewhere else. It is right here in the pause between breaths, in the sensation of walking, in the quiet observation of the world around us. And it is in these small, sacred pauses that we find the lasting satisfaction we have been looking for all along. Thank you for following the podcast. We will meet again in the next story. Be well.